Yeah, Mataji, one second. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for joining in. Just give me 1 minute, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, welcome everybody to Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. Today we are very fortunate to have His Grace Ramgir Gari Prabhuji to enlighten us on special topic, Krishna killing demons. Prabhuji is especially going to enlighten us on topic Krishna killing Potana demon. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for joining and giving your valuable time and decision this morning. Please take over the call, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I am connecting through my mobile data. I'm right now somewhere South India, so please excuse me that I may not be able to turn on my video to save the bandwidth. So please excuse myself that I may not be able to turn on my video. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Ashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Actually, we are starting our Janmashtami celebrations by discussing some leelas that are special from our standpoint, where Krishna is killing the demon so that we can learn how those demons within us can be killed as well. And these leelas, probably the next 2 weeks that we will all be discussing, is very scientific, and it has got wonderful relevance in our devotional practices. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his Chaitanya Sikshamrita, has given wonderful explanations and wonderful reflections on various leelas, especially Krishna killing the demon. Both Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur have, and also other acharyas too, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Sridhara Swami. So many of them have given their commentaries on Krishna's activities. So starting today, I presume till Janmashtami, we will be churning this nectar on Krishna's killing the demons. Before we start our discussion, let us offer some invocation prayers, and then we'll get on to the Leela part. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namaham Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी आश्चर्यादेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। Today is actually a very auspicious day also from an ISKCON devotee's point of view. Today is the day when Srila Prabhupada had set his journey to go to United States to fulfill the order of his spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada's journey from India to USA is very historical. By Srila Prabhupada entering United States, he not only fulfilled the mission that Mahaprabhu, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and all the Vartaman Acharyas have desired. This whole journey actually contributed or helped many lives. In fact, lives even in India, back in India, got saved because of this wonderful feat of Srila Prabhupada. In our Krishna consciousness life, in our Krishna consciousness journey, it is extremely important for us to understand and appreciate that the path laid out by our Vaishnava Acharyas are our only hope to rescue ourselves from the cycle of birth and death. Especially when we are rescued, and if we show our indebtedness, maybe we are not completely out of the mess, but at least we are in the process of getting out of the mess. We already got hold of the real solution. We should definitely show our gratitude by being part of these missionary activities. So Srila Prabhupada's blessings, with Srila Prabhupada's blessings, maybe commence this lecture series, which will help us enjoy the pastimes of the Lord and also try to analyze the dirt within our heart, which is stopping us in our journey of Krishna consciousness. One of the important and longest phase in a sadhaka's journey from Shraddha to Prema is the phase of Anartha Nivritti. This Anartha Nivritti is sometimes not easily completed within one lifetime. People may have to go several lifetimes to get rid of all their anarthas. Bhakti Vinod Thakur has explained, as well as Madhurya Kadambini explains, about the details of how Anartha Nivritti needs to happen. Of course, all the pastimes of Krishna or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or any particular incarnation of the Lord or Vaishnava's activities, apart from the episode itself, apart from the narration of the events, one must look forward to get on to the details of what goes behind and what is there for us. So paritranaya sadhunam vinachaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So paritranaya sadhunam, which means protecting the sadhus, is constantly happening, and Krishna is, personally attending to that. Vinachaya cha dushkritam, it is said that it is not just that Krishna killed this, 15, 20 demons. Krishna killed several demons. Krishna had actually rescued Vrindavan Vasis. Krishna had actually done many such wonderful feats. Just that prominent ones are shared with us just as a highlight. But if you really go deeper, there are several pastimes, the several demons. In fact, it is said that every moment or every day, several demons were killed. Some smaller ones, some tiny ones. That's why Srimad Bhagavatam is not just this 18,000 verses that we know in this material world. If you go to heavenly planets, the Bhagavatam verses are much more. And these leelas are ever increasing, and Krishna is, Leela Purushottam. So from that perspective, all the leelas that we are discussing or analyzing is not exhaustive enough, and it's ever expanding. So we are going to discuss these leelas along with some anartha nivritti aspect of it, so that these sadhakas are able to not only just sentimentally relate to Krishna's pastimes, but also scientifically get on to looking within us of what I need to get rid of myself. Just this Putana's pastime itself, so many acharyas have given so many wonderful explanation that within next 40 minutes, we will not be able to cover up everything under the roof possible of this pastime. I will try to touch base on few important aspects of this pastime, but I will also give some context for the series that you are all going to discuss. So more so, it will be relevant for all the pastimes that you are going to discuss. So probably we will discuss Putana pastimes, maybe 25-30%. The context behind that and to this entire series of Krishna killing demons is also a science that we need to learn. Anartha nivritti, anarthas are classified into 4 different sections, or they say 4 sources of anarthas. In bhakti, we use different terminologies and sometimes we mix them up. One is anartha, second is aparada, third is papa, fourth is something we call as destiny, or something that we are destined, karma phala. A person is suffering in this material world because of any one of these reasons. But if you want to clearly classify them, anarthas and aparadas are to do with somebody's devotional journey, whereas karma phala, papa, they are destiny, they are to do with somebody's conditional life. There is definitely an overlap because we are, sadhakas in the making. But if somebody really want to classify and analyze, the anartha part of it, which each of these demons represents some anarthas or whether in our devotional journey, is directly attributing to our devotional journey, because so long as these anarthas are not removed, we will not be able to make substantial progress in devotional life. Every time when we sing some Vaishnavacharya song, whether it is Bhaktivinoda Thakur songs or Bilva Mangala Thakura songs, Narottam Das Thakura songs, or various other places where we discuss about the glories, we always talk about how the sins committed since ages are immediately washed away or burnt into ashes just by uttering the holy name of the Lord. Sometimes we assume or mix up ourselves saying that the same holds good for aparada also. The same holds good for anarthas also. So we need to remember that never once, at least I have not come across any songs where they say, so you do an aparad, and just by chanting the holy name of the Lord, the effect of aparad is mitigated. No, I have not come across some scenarios. So all the aparadas has to be, we have to work upon it to remove it so that we can make progress in Krishna consciousness. Sins, knowingly committed sins, unknowingly committed sins can be mitigated and eradicated. But aparadas have to be, you have to yearn to remove them. Otherwise, they will be an obstacle in the path of Krishna consciousness. So anarthas are also some sort of a byproduct coming from 4 sources. One is that comes anarthas arising out of past sinful activities. Past meaning in this very life or past life. So this anartha is kind of a borderline where because of the past sins, there may be some effect upon us. Maybe the family that we are born in, maybe the culture that we have embraced to, maybe the lifestyle that we are in, maybe the habits. So it's called Dushkrutota. And the second type of anarthas, the source of anartha, is from the past pious activities. Again, the same reason, some lifestyle, some behavior, habits, culture, address various things. Because of our past pious activities, we are bestowed with some results which actually attribute to the obstacle. As Kunti Maharani explains, Janma Aishwarya Sruta Sri Bihi. Somebody's birth, wealth, beauty, intelligence, they are all attributed either to past pious or past sinful. So if they are not properly oriented or dovetailed, they can be an obstacle in the path of Krishna consciousness. So it's called Sukritota, that which is coming out of past pious activities. The third anartha source is aparadota. Because of offenses, whether it is Nama Aparad, Seva Aparad, Vaishnava Aparad, there are some anarthas, there are some unwanted things that creeps in to our devotional journey. So this aparadhota is purely arising out of the offenses one knowingly, unknowingly commits. And last but not least is bhaktyadhota. Somebody, because of the results of bhakti, they may get carried away and not so much conscious about they got carried away, like name, fame, adoration, followers. So Madhurya Kadambini as well as Bhaktivinoda Thakur as well as other acharyas are warning us that these anarthas, they sometimes take the shape within us as Krishna conscious personalities, Krishna consciousness ideologies, Krishna consciousness views. Unless and otherwise, we are very carefully evaluating, analyzing them and classifying and removing them, we may accept illusion as reality and reality as illusion. And we will be the most unfortunate person after getting into Krishna consciousness by not carefully identifying them and removing them. So my first point in this current series, as a prelude that you will be discussing about various demons, I presume that every day you're going to discuss different demons, is please understand that when Krishna is killing one demon, from Putana to Shakadasur to Trinavrata to everybody, they all are one quotient or the other within ourselves. And I'm sure every speaker is going to analyze how each of these demons, by their behavior, by their conduct, they actually represent some weird and funny and obstacles in our Krishna consciousness. And by surrendering to Krishna, by letting Krishna take them over, by letting Krishna to kill them, is a wonderful moment for us to realize. It may actually be a very painful process to even go through this cleaning. If you're thinking, oh, okay, as a pastime we may enjoy, but we have to really put us through this process of killing this demon within ourselves. It's a very strenuous and very painful process. The second point that I want to say here is, each and every one of us in our practicing of Krishna consciousness need to remember that sadhana and tapasya are two different things. Sometimes we again mistake the endeavor that we put in together for performing sadhana itself as a tapasya. The reason I'm mentioning about this point, tapasya, is Prabhupada writes in several places, Krishna tells to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, that unless we perform tapasya, we will not be able to move forward in a manner that we expect to pace ourselves in Krishna consciousness. Sadhana is like our breathing. It's our lifeline. Chanting, reading, hearing, prasadam, deity worship, bhagavatam. Let's not pat on our back saying that if this all are happening, then we are, properly situated. These are all like our breathing, fine. Previously we were gagging, we couldn't even breathe. By proper sadhana, at least we got into breathing. But tapasya is an endeavor, extra endeavor, performing of an austerity by voluntarily accepting some pain. Probably that which we are not interested in doing, but we still push ourselves into it. With that, we will be able to fight against these anarthas. Of course, the sadhana is going to support, fuel this, and without that, we cannot even get onto this stage. But just because we are doing sadhana, we should not be lax. We should be remembering that at some point in time, I need to yearn, go stronger, go intense, go deeper, go focused in fighting against these demons within us, so that we will be able to eventually get to see the beautiful face of Shri Shri Radha Shyam Sundar. The third point, as a part of Shraddha to Prema, Madhurya Kadambini as well as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says that the way each of these anarthas, these four classifications of anarthas, Sukritota, Duskritota, Aparadota, and Bhaktyadota. Actually, this is a seminar by itself on Anartha Nivriti, where very, very detailed analysis, little technical, is explained. So, I'm just trying to give a snapshot because you're all going to discuss about different anarthas by this Krishna killing demons. So, Rupa Goswami explains the way these anarthas leave a person is married to the progress from Shraddha to Prema. So, what Rupa Goswami has explained, these anarthas may not necessarily go at one shot. Activity sadhana wise, activity as tapasya wise, and as well blessings from self-realized soul, all three of them put together helps us in making necessary progress in Krishna consciousness. And the progress may be to take us through the phases, Ado Shraddha, Tata, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana, Kriya, Anartha Nivriti. So, at each of these stages, different sources of anarthas gets purified. And the way they are purified is, they're getting purified partially, almost completely, thoroughly, absolutely thoroughly. So these are the 5 different ways or 5 different stages these anarthas go away. With that note, I would like to, discuss this Putana's pastime. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj has very elaborately discussed about this. So as I said, what we will be discussing was only 30% of what actually this pastimes is offering us. Putana is representing pseudo guru, an anartha called pseudo guru. Basically, pseudo guru may appear in 2 forms, any one of these 2 forms in a sadhaka's heart. Number 1, a deceitful so-called guru who preaches or who kind of recommends sense gratification as a part of his instructions, without realizing that he is actually putting his dependents also in trouble. A person may be engaged in some Krishna conscious activity, but because of not having enough realization, but just because of interested in name, fame, and adoration, the person may instruct his dependents or disciples beyond his own understanding or without understanding the other person's consciousness. So this is one form of a pseudo guru. I repeat, a disciple. This is a category where a person is a deceitful, completely. He's dokebaz in Hindi. So he preaches sense gratification, and the sense gratification is exercised through some form of Krishna conscious activity, wherein this so-called guru person or the person who assumes a role of a guru misguides, misdirect the other person. Either he gives instructions way beyond what he understands, or he gives instruction to the other person way beyond what the other person could assimilate. The second way of this pseudo guru is one who inwardly manifests the spiritual guide in the form of mundane empiric reasoning. Basically, it's like a material mind, but portraying a spiritual guide, which means sense gratificatory propensity in the garb of devotional sentiments, devotional activity. These two are Putana-like nature in a sadhaka. And anyone who takes shelter of the Supreme Lord can kill these propensity, and hence it is important for us to just participate in the pastimes, just hear the pastimes, and as we hear the pastimes, we are actually giving enough jolt to these anarthas. But if we also try to work on doing the tapasya to remove such a propensity within ourselves with the help of self-realized souls, then we are not only just giving a jolt, we are finally finishing this anartha off. So Putana, what happened was Kamsa now decided to start killing the kids who were recently born, because Krishna sneak peeked out of the jail after Kamsa killing 6 children of Devaki. We just finished half an hour before discussing about who are those 6 children who were killed. We discussed the pastime of Kalaneni and how when Narada Muni goes to Kamsa to instigate Kamsa to kill these children, have got some spiritual reasoning. So it is important that we need to understand that Krishna performs every part of the pastime in a manner in which we all have to learn some lessons in our lives. So Kamsa got very agitated, very disturbed. So he chose Putana as his first person to go for the attack. For the nature of Putana. So Putana, she is a witch, not just a normal one, but a superlative one. She has taken a sankalpa, kind of activities to go and kill babies, especially newborn babies. Srila Prabhupada calls this as a kechari. Kechari means a witch who can kill babies ruthlessly, mercilessly, without any sense of sentiments. So this Putana was called, and Kamsa told, please go and finish off this child, and give me a good news back. Kamsa was not just a normal king, he was a Maharaja. So he was a Maharaja and he could have every demon under his control. Kamsa had a deal. The deal was every demon he will fight. If the demon loses to Kamsa, the demon has to become eternally servant to him. And if the demon wins, then Kamsa agrees to, be his slave. And it has never happened that Kamsa could be anyone could win over Kamsa. So interestingly, every possible demon became Kamsa's subordinate. So Putana had to fulfill the orders of Kamsa. So she went with an agenda to kill Krishna. And the way she went to kill Krishna was very interesting. That it is said, Yogamaya, Vrindadevi, Paurnamasi, they are all constantly working to arrange Krishna's pastimes. So, for helping Krishna's pastime, they will facilitate all the characters, they will facilitate all the personalities, so that simultaneously Krishna also gets his quota of enjoyment. All the Vrindavan Vasis, they are protected. There is fun, there is valor, there is chivalrous, there is also excitement, there is also education, and there is also confusion, so that even Mayavadis can have their own fun. So Putana went with a very clear-cut agenda of killing Krishna. Prabhupada explains, as soon as Putana reached that place, she was looking exquisitely beautiful, that no one doubted her to be a witch. Because when Krishna was born, not only people within Vrindavan and Gokul came and witnessed or saw Krishna, there were people from various other places, other planets, other universes. They came. So Nanda Maharaj saw so many new people, because demigods came. Everybody came in disguise to take darshan of the Supreme Lord. So nobody doubted that Putana has come. I mean, she could be a demon. And not only that, everybody were in super excited state. They were all so happy, so jubilant. So when you are excited, they say in business development or management, they say, when you are excited and when you are angry, make sure you don't take decisions. Because when you're excited, you will not look at certain details. And when you're angry, you will not respect certain details. So, I mean, that's just an information. So everybody were excited. So according to Yogamaya's arrangement, Putana could make entry directly inside the house to the bedroom of Yashodamaya and Nanda Baba, to that extent, because Krishna was in some inner courtyard where not everybody is allowed. Visitors are not allowed to go there. But somehow, looking at the beauty of Putana as a wonderful lady, so she could make herself go to the inner quarters. And as soon as she saw Krishna, she realized that this baby is not an ordinary one. Because she was a witch, she knew what baby makes makes into what? I mean, it's like a butcher knows which goat is a good one, which meat will be sold for what price. Similarly, as a witch, she knew, she could judge who is who. So when she saw Krishna, she immediately realized that Krishna was not an ordinary person and he is the master of the universe. It is explained that for us to appreciate or understand the glory of the Supreme Lord, or glory of a Vaishnava, or greatness of a person, we may not necessarily possess all the qualification. The greatness is so high that even the most stupidest person can understand that the person opposite to him is great. Even though she was demoniac, she could easily sense Krishna as the supreme. And she knew Krishna is somebody who will not be able to be killed. And she also knew that she is going to have a tough time. But because she is already a demoness, and a demon is the one who does not give importance to the warnings. Like Ravana never gave importance to warning. Hiranyakashipu never gave importance to warning. No demon gave importance to warning. So demon nature is that how much ever warning you give, they ignore that warning because of their own quotient. They think that they can still handle it. Yes, the other guy is very powerful, very, superlative, in nature, but still their propensity will make them believe I can still handle it. So Putana, even though she assessed the scenario that Krishna or the baby is special, unique, and not an ordinary one, she still thought that, I should go ahead and do my act. The second thing is, if she go back without killing Krishna, she's anyway going to be finished by Kamsa. So she knew that, I have to finish this job by, any way, because otherwise I'm anyway a slave to Kamsa. How can I go back without finishing my task? Just let us do a rewind of past life of Putana. How come she became, such a person to an extent of killing Krishna? Putana, in her past life, her name was Ratnamala. So this Ratnamala is a daughter of Bali Maharaj. So as Vamanadev came to Bali Maharaj's house to beg alms, this Ratnamala was a small girl. So when she saw the beautiful form of Vamanadev, she got immediately captivated with his beauty. So beautiful, so beautiful. So she couldn't control her feelings. She got so much attracted to the beauty of Vamanadev. So she immediately desired that this Vamanadev I will make Vamanadev as mine. As my son. She wanted to have a son that of Vamanadev. She said that I would like to feed, I would like to give my milk to Vamanadev. So this thought actually became slightly disturbed when Vamanadev finished Bali Maharaj. Even though initially she had a very interesting, very genuine attraction towards Vamanadev, very genuine attraction. and she wanted to have Krishna, Vamandev, as her son. But when Bali Maharaj was cheated apparently by Vamanadev, her feeling got slightly disturbed. So Ratnamala desired that I will still have Vamanadev as my son, but instead of just feeding him milk, I will suck his life air out by suckling him, by giving him poison. So she said, if you become my son, then not only will I feed you, but I will also kill you. But Krishna, being so kind, to express the amount of kindness or the greatness, the glorious nature of the Supreme Lord, even somebody inadvertently offers their love and attraction towards the Supreme Lord, and eventually they may change their course of thought, Krishna still gives his credit to such a person. So when Putana eventually killed Krishna, so what she happened? So when Ratnamala desired like this, eventually Ratnamala was, because of such a propensity to kill the Supreme Lord, she had to become a demoness, which in her next life. So as Putana, she got both privilege. She got to feed the Lord, as well as her participation to kill was sanctioned. But in return, how Krishna took care of, how Krishna responded to the situation is something super exciting, and that tells how great the Supreme Lord is. She uniquely murdered or tried to murder the Supreme Lord. Krishna gave her the position of mother. Adav Mada, Guru Patni, Brahmani, Rajapatnika, Denu, Datri, Tata, Prithvi. These are all 7 mothers. Your own mother, Guru's wife, Queen, Adav Mada, Guru Patni, wife of a Brahmana, Brahmani, Rajapatnika, Denu, cow, Dhatri, nurse, Prithvi, earth. They are all 7 mothers. Because she gave her breast milk. Initially, she gave her breast milk, couple of drops, before she instigating or giving poison, just by the gesture of she desiring to have Krishna as her son, and also she went on to give her breast milk. Krishna gave her the privilege of killing her, because whomever Krishna killed, they are all liberated. But in the case of Putana, it was not just liberation. She got to attain the position of the mother of Krishna in the spiritual abode. When Putana lifted the baby from the inner quarters of Nanda Maharaj, when Nanda Maharaj and all the other people were attending to the guests, she kind of carefully took the baby, held her closer to her breast, started to feed. After a few seconds, she took the baby and started to fly away. That's when everybody started to realize that probably this lady was not somebody as a guest, she's a witch. But then when she flew away, Krishna was already in the arms of Putana, he started to suck her life air out. She started going on sucking her so much so that she couldn't breathe properly, and her real original witch like personality, she could lose the beautiful whatever dressing up that she came up to attract Krishna. She once again regained her witch form, and it is explained that she was not like an ordinary looking human. She was looking so huge, like a Rakshasi, gigantic Rakshasi. She was 6 koshas tall. 1 kosha is 2 miles. So she was 12 miles tall. Such a huge form she took. So when Krishna started to suck and finally killed her, she took the form of a gigantic Rakshasi with 12 miles long, and she fell to the ground, crashing. And when such a huge 12-mile long person dies, I mean, you're almost, lying down in multiple villages in the entire Vrindavan. So she was so huge that everybody came to witness what has happened. And this act of Krishna killing Putana was so silently done that after Putana was dead, Krishna was crawling on her body like a small baby, as if nothing has happened, nothing is aware about. And everybody in the nearby village who all knew about Krishna, they came and immediately, started to thank the Lord. Oh my God, thank you so much. Somehow this small baby child got saved. It's because Narayana's blessings. It is Supreme Lord's blessings. It is the, blessings that the parents have done. Otherwise, what would have happened to this child? Such a witch. So they were all, trying to thank the Lord who has saved. Actually, it is the Lord who was, himself performing this Leela. But what comes later is very interesting. Such a gigantic form, how are you going to cremate? How are you going to, do cleanup? So they said they had to cut her body into multiple pieces. This 12-mile long body, they have to be cut into multiple pieces, and they have to burn them. And unusually, the burning of Putana, instead of having the foul smell from the dead body, there was an aroma, a wonderful aromatic smell came out of the fire lit on the fumes coming out of the fire lit of this body. So it is explained that because even though she had come for a notorious act, just because of her gesture of a mother, and also initially in her previous life desiring to have Krishna as her son, Krishna gave a privilege of she becoming a glorified personality. So Putana is one such character in Krishna Leela pastime who has attained that position which not many demons have attained. So it is very unique. Once Gauranga Prabhu was mentioning a very interesting point. He was mentioning that Krishna consciousness is a very easy process and a free process. Better practice Krishna consciousness nicely, because everything is free, everything is easy, everything is less complicated. Otherwise, only you become a demon like that of Vrindavan demons to get Krishna's personal attention. If you become a half-baked demon, na garka, na gatka, neither this way nor that way, then you will lose the entire game. So one has to become a superlative demon to get Krishna's attention, which is very, very difficult, because to become a demon like that, you need to do a lot of nonsense and spend a lot of money, time, energy, and tapasya. So rather be a simple, humble devotee to get Krishna's attentions and mercy. So the point here is that it was Putana who got some special attention of Krishna. Of course, this is not a example for us to imitate that notoriousness will attract Krishna. But the point is, Krishna, even amongst notoriousness, looks forward for some simple gesture of love, which was actually genuine in Ratnamala's case in the initial sense. So he gave his benediction to Putana to become a mother. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj explains that as a practicing devotee, one has to identify a deceitful mentality one may inadvertently have, because this materialistic education that we are exposed to makes us to be a show bottle guy, to kind of show off that I'm a devotee, that I'm knowledgeable, I am eligible, I'm qualified, I'm advanced. As we always say that, please don't call me an advanced devotee. I may start believing it. I mean, that's what is happening to most of us, or some of us, or at least to me for that matter. Sometimes people say that some appreciation you receive just because of executing of some service, and this appreciation actually belongs to Srila Prabhupada and the self-realized souls. But just we start to assume this appreciation belongs to us, and we start to behave like that. So we need to be very careful that whenever we are in the process of Krishna consciousness, performing our devotional service, we need to be very prudent in making sure that we don't subscribe to any such ideologies of thinking that we are the beneficiaries, we are the enjoyers, or we are really eligible for such appreciation, because such appreciations are all belonging to Vaishnavas only. I will just end. There are many more points that we can speak about on Putana's pastime, but I'll just end on certain points that Srila Prabhupada is making as a part of this Putana's pastime. Number one, Srila Prabhupada says,
I'll just read a portion from Krishna book. When Putana lifted Krishna, Krishna actually did not open his eyes to see Putana. And Prabhupada is giving 5 to 6 reasons why this was not done, which is very interesting. So at least I will state them, then we can get into some question answers. Number one reason, Srila Prabhupada explains, Krishna closed his eyes because he did not like to see the face of Putana, who had killed too many children. So now she has come to kill me. So disgusting person, number one. Prabhupada, some other authors say that something extraordinary was being dictated to her in order to give her assurance. Krishna closed his eyes so that she would not be frightened, because as I said, when she saw Krishna, she already figured out that he is not an ordinary guy. Third, actually Krishna appeared, one of the agenda was to kill the demons, and this is the first demon in Krishna's Bhaumya Vrindavan Leela. So Krishna was a bit shy. Oh my God, I have to kill a woman as my first demon, because according to Vedic rituals, Vedic rules, killing of a woman, Brahmana, cow, or a child is forbidden. But here Krishna had to kill, so that's why he thought, how do I do this act? So he closed his eyes and killed. Fourth, that Krishna closed his eyes because Putana is behaving like a nurse, is almost like a mother. So, and he's going to kill a mother. Killing a mother is also another sinful act. So Krishna didn't want to, open his eyes and see that act. So there are many, many more reasons that are explained. But then Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all that he would do is wonderful. And as wonderful Krishna, he killed Putana in a wonderful manner. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj has written a full article on Putana in his Harmonist publication. Like there's a, like Back to Godhead, there was a book called Harmonist. So I will just only read out certain points which will help us in kind of consolidating the Siddhanta of killing of Putana. This is again not exhaustive. So number one, organized religion is an attempt to force the people in general to follow certain religious principles without affecting any spiritual advancement in them. So is doomed to failure. So this Putana kind of propensity is organized religion, where religious ideologies in the name of dharma, in the name of religion, there are a lot of unwanted nefarious activities are happening. So one has to take shelter of the Supreme Lord to kill such things. If somebody takes pseudo teachers of religion, if somebody accidentally, knowingly, not so carefully conducting himself and get himself to the pseudo teachers of religion, their spiritual life is completely doomed. Third, a person who is notorious in nature always associate with similar minded people. As we say that the feathers of the same bird flocks together. Similarly, Putana joins and stays in the same assembly of Kamsa and other similar minded person. That's why even though there could be chances for us to get corrected, just because of we choosing to stay with them, our intensity of animosity towards the Supreme Lord increases. Fourth, somebody would like to improve materialism through religious beliefs, and such persons get the help of Putanas of this world. His Grace Atma Tattva Prabhu, one of the Prabhupada disciples, used to mention all the so-called industrialists used to have association with some Babas, Dongi Babas, and they used to call these sadhus to their factories so that these Babas can give lecture to their employees, and used to very jokingly say how the machines are shaligrams and crude oil is Sharanamrit. That's how they will preach. Work is worship, machines are shaligram, and crude oil is Sharanamrit. So they make employees to work for the materialistic boss and do ugra karma so that the materialistic boss can cut a fat check to the sadhu for his sense gratification. So the point is such a Putana mentality. And as an offering, we say to Srila Prabhupada, Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Srila Prabhupada's one of the glorious service was to finish off Nirvisesha, Sunyavadi, and going and deliver everybody in the Paschatya Desha who were all either surrendered to materialistic sense gratification or some sort of a pseudo religion. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj says the effective silencing of the whole race of pseudo teachers of religion is the first clear indication of the appearance of the absolute on the mundane plane. The bona fide teacher of the absolute heralds the advent of Lord Krishna by his uncompromising campaign against the pseudo teachers of religion. So, as I began my speech by saying, Srila Prabhupada's endeavor to go out and preaching about the glories of the Supreme Lord to the Westerners is a very important agenda to finish off Putanas of this world. And Srila Prabhupada's uncompromising nature in presenting the Siddhanta, not getting carried away with the so-called aristocracy of this Western world. Prabhupada was exactly doing what Krishna did to Putana. So Srila Prabhupada, by his bold, strong, emphatic move, has killed all the pseudo ideologies and installed the seed of Krishna Bhakti in each and every one of our heart, which if we properly nurture them, we will be able to kill the Putana mentality within us and around us, and eventually win more and more souls to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. There are many, many more points to this Putana's stories and Siddhanta which Acharyas have explained. But in the context of limitation of time, I will end here. If there are any questions or comments, we can discuss. And if anybody has any additional points which I may have not mentioned, I'll be happy to hear them as well. Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki jai, Janmashtami Mahotsav ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for such an interesting class. It was very nice. The analogy of the butcher, that was kind of interesting, and also about how one thing, as you were talking, of course, Putana representation of false guru, yes, but one thing that you were talking about how this, when everyone is in a very happy situation, we do not look into details, or when we are in a very distressful situation also, maybe we are not in the right frame of mind. I thought that was so important, and it happens to us on a regular basis. So thanks for reminding that point. Thank you, Prabhu. The class was very interesting and very beautiful. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. No questions, but it was a wonderful class. Also, I appreciate the point that you were talking about the false guru. The way Putana sneaked in, really unnoticed, very similar to the false gurus. Kind of giving their inputs in a very sneaky way that we do not realize is actually misguiding us. So, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for a very nice class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, ma. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Anybody has any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the nice class. So I have one question, and my name is Anshu. So, why did Krishna think as Putana as his mother? Because normally, Putana is a demon, and she has bad qualities, and so why did Krishna take Putana as his mother? Even though she was she has bad qualities and she doesn't she's not that nice.
Thank you so much for this question, dear. It's like this. Krishna simultaneously exhibited two nature of him. One is because you are a demoness, or the person is done all notorious activities, he punished her. He punished her, killed her, gave necessary treatment to her notorious activity. But at the same time, he wanted to ensure that Putana in her previous life did have a genuine desire to have Krishna as her child. So Krishna is not a person with very partial nature. I mean, at the same time, he's partial too. But the point is, Krishna wanted to make sure, whilst I punished for your mistake, I'm also rewarding for your, noble thought. And just the thought of her to originally have Krishna as her son was so noble. And if at all I can analyze this, before even understanding before even getting into the demoniac sangha, demoniac nature, or getting into the demoniac act, because my dad is being insulted by Vamana Dev, she had within the heart a genuine feeling which is not tinged by any amount of adulteration. So Krishna, many times I've said in Harinam Chintamani, there is a very nice explanation. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining that if somebody is inadvertently glorifying the Lord, even though they may not be thinking about the Lord gives them credit, thinking that they had actually glorified me. This is the Lord's magnanimity, and this is the Lord's privilege to give us. Otherwise, for us to become completely perfect, to go back home, back to God, we may take a lot of time. Only as we know that when we play games, there are always certain jackpots or brownie points that we gain as we go play the game. So suppose if while playing the game, if I don't have such honey spots, if I don't gain some additional brownie points, probably I may not be able to finish the game. So Krishna, understanding our precarious condition, that if I only go on punishing and let this guy function to their own strength to gain their own brownie points or to gain their own bhakti points, probably they may never be able to reach the destination. So what he does is that in our journey of Krishna consciousness, whilst he punishes, teaches us lesson for our mistakes, he's also giving us a lot of honey spots. He's also giving us a lot of value-added points for a very smallest gesture, smallest endeavor, so that we take advantage of them, gain more momentum, more fasterly reach our destination before any other challenges come our way. So in case of Putana, as I explained, he definitely punished, but at the same time, he gave some additional points. It is similar to how a mother treats the child. A mother scolds the child, but the amount of love the mother reciprocates for the loving act of the child is much, much more than the amount of punishment the mother would give to the child. So that's how Krishna treats his dear. Does it make sense?
Yes, thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else has any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for explaining so much about Putana's pastimes, Prabhuji. This is Vivek here. I have a question, Prabhuji. So you did mention about Putana's desire in her previous life to have Krishna as her son. Question here is that this could be a silly question, Prabhuji, but please pardon. The question here is that so we also hear a similar, I wouldn't call it similar, but Narad Muni also in his previous life was a son of a maidservant, and then we see that he performed devotional service to the sages. I mean, yeah, towards the sages, and then he became Lord's eternal servant. So Prabhupada, we were having this discussion among devotees, and then while reading some other purport of Prabhupada, somewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada mentions that it was not exactly one life after the other. So it's not like Narad Muni served the sages in this life, and in the next life he immediately became a eternal servant of the Lord. Prabhupada he just writes one single sentence. He writes that in 1 millennium he was a maid servant, in the next millennium he became Lord's eternal servant. So is there any reference like that for Putana, like it was in 2 different millenniums, or
I may not know about it if it's for 2 different millenniums, but what Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj writes, previous life and the next life. So, I mean, I may also interpret the millennium aspect is in terms of not necessarily that you will have to take several lives before we get on to that stage. So it is like this. When we are in these earthly planets, currently Kali Yuga is going on. In some other galaxy, in some other universe, some other millennium is happening. So we are not bounded, or our borderline is not set only for this earthly planets. The soul is the moment we die, according to our karma, according to our various other balance sheet, we may be posted anywhere else in the universe. So my understanding of millennium, 1 millennium to another millennium, is not necessarily about, it takes such a enormous amount of time between one lifetime and another lifetime to reap the results. So my understanding is, in this millennium, I mean, probably right now we are in Kali Yuga, participating in Gauranga Mahaprabhu's pastimes, and maybe if a person die halfway through, maybe he's given a privilege to participate in Krishna Leela in maybe a Dwapara Yuga, maybe in another Yuga. As Prabhupada's disciples always say, when they leave their body, they go and participate in Prabhupada's service in some other universe. Right. Maybe Prabhupada is doing some service as Prabhupada in Kali Yuga in another planet, another universe, or maybe he's doing service in Dwapara Yuga or Treta Yuga, who knows what Yuga or what millennium part of it. My understanding that way is that if you think millennium after millennium is, maybe there are several lives in between, probably that's not the case. And also, to specifically answer if I know anything about that of Putana, I don't know, but based on whatever is mentioned by Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, it was actually Ratnamala in the previous life. The immediate next life she became Putana. So in terms of millennium, I do not know, and I have not read. Maybe somebody else in the forum can add value to that.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Yeah, that is very satisfying answer that you gave. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else has any other questions or comments, thoughts?
Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for very beautiful class. Very nice points, Prabhu. Thank you for such a beautiful class once again.
There is a very nice verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. I will just recite this because we are getting on to this Krishna Leela pastimes. So, and it's a wonderful translation. Saveda dhatu padavim parasya duranta virasya ratanga pane yo mayaya santanta yanu vrityaya bhajeta tatpada saroja gandham. Only those who render unreserved, uninterrupted, favorable service unto the lotus feet of Krishna, who carries the wheel of the chariot in his hand, can know the creator of the universe in his full glory, power, and transcendence. Basically, we are going to discuss about, we are trying to know Krishna, hear about Krishna. So what we are expected of, if at all we want to understand, as we know from Bhagavad Gita, Janma Karma Chame Divyam Evam Yovedi Tattvataha. To understand the purport of this, Sutta Goswami is explaining from in Bhagavatam, unreserved, uninterrupted, favorable service under the lotus feet of Krishna is what is expected of us for us to get to understand the full glory. So let us not be very reserved when we are glorifying the Lord. Let us not be having with interruptions and disturbances in terms of whatever comes our way, we will still be steadfastly focused in our service and make sure all the more we remain in a favorable mood to serve our spiritual authorities, so that we will be able to get the glimpse of Krishna's pastimes. And the moment we understand that in our heart, we will definitely be able to kill all the demons and walk scot-free and clean. And eventually we will be able to get the divine hug of Shri Shri Radha Shyam Sundar whenever we make it to the spiritual abode. Since there are no more questions, we'll end our sessions here. Thank you so much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhupada,
Krishna.
once again for such a beautiful class. I would like to offer my obeisances to you and all the Vaishnavas assembled on the call. Vancha kalpa tarubhyasya kripa sindhu patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Grace Ram Girdhari Prabhuji. Jai. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Hare Krishna, beta. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Koti Koti Dandavat Pranam. Srila Prabhupada Srila Gurudev ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Bol.
you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.